captured in traps. And sometimes the bears are killed, and sometimes the bears are released. So in this list here, we have the number of bears captured and number of bears killed. And mostly, the bears are, if they're captured because they're a problem, they're killed. But in recent times, there have been changes in policy. Policy is now in some parts of Japan, especially Western Japan, is to protect the bears because there aren't many of them. So this is what this column is showing us here, this column here. That's for 2009. This is for 2010. Very difficult to read, and I'll show you this in another form in a minute. Okay, this is also not particularly easy to read. The top graph here shows the number of bears killed in 2004 through to this year. These are bears killed as nuisances. So the number of bears killed in Hokkaido has been fairly steady at around 300, 400, 500. This year, as of 2 weeks ago, middle of November, the number of brown bears killed in Hokkaido was 450. So it's about the same as we've seen in the past. However, the number of bears killed in Honshu, shown in the red here, went up to this amount in 2004. So it was about 1,500 in 2004, and then down in 2005, and up here to 3,000 or so in 2006, and down again the next year, and up a little bit the next year, down again. And now this year we have more data suggesting that the number of bears killed is about 2,500. So the number of bears killed the black bears killed is rather large, and the question is, why are they killed in these various years? And the arrow here, which is again a bit hard to see, sorry about that, these are years in which the summers have been very hot and the amount of food in the mountains has been affected. So I'm sure you've heard about the problem of lack of food for bears in the mountains. Well, it seems to be every 2 years that there's been a problem with very hot summers and a lack of food in the mountains, and therefore more conflicts, because the bears come down from the mountains looking for food, especially at this time of year, or in the fall. They come down from the mountains looking for food so that they can get through the winter. So the interesting thing is that the picture for Honshu and for black bears is different than for that in Hokkaido. In Hokkaido, in those years in which there were very dry summers, it didn't seem to make much difference to the number of human and bear interactions or conflicts. So this is a rather different graph than this one here in the red. So again, I apologize for this. It's not a very good picture. So the question is, in particular, what is going to happen to the black bears in Honshu? If we look at those three populations in western Honshu, the numbers of bears, the estimated number of bears in these three prefectures is a wide range. So it's somewhere between 280 and 680, so let's call it 400. In 2004, you can see this is the number of bears killed in 2004, and that's about 170. So 170 bears killed in 2004 is a very large proportion of the bears estimated to be in those three prefectures. Oh, and the reason we put them together is that there's a place in Western Japan where Shimane-ken, Hiroshima-ken, and Yamaguchi-ken all come together. So there's a overlapping areas. That's why they're grouped together. So this is interesting. In 2004, maybe 30% of the estimated population of bears in the westernmost part of Japan were killed as nuisances. And here is closer to home, Hyogo, Tottori, and Okayama. You can see the number of bears is maybe 190, something like that. And still, in 2004, 60 or so bears were killed. Still quite a large proportion of the actual numbers of bears. So the interesting thing is that there's no hunting in these 9 prefectures, but there are conflicts because of particularly related to climate change and to availability of food. So in 2004, you can see in these 2 areas, a large number of bears a large proportion of bears were killed relative to the actual numbers. And again in 2006, look at the numbers that were killed. Even though there are groups trying to protect these bears, they were still killed in large numbers. And then in 2008, same thing. And this year, even this year, there were a number of bears killed in those 9 prefectures. The population in Kinki, probably about 180. And in every one of those conflicts, wherever there was a conflict, the bears were moved somewhere else. So not all of the bears that are conflict with humans, not all of the bears are killed. And in that area, none of the bears were killed, which is good. They're probably up in the mountains somewhere in Wakayama again. So the people who are interested in the future of Japan's bears are asking what is going to be the future in particular of these 3 populations. They're all separate from one another, and they're on the edge in terms of numbers of estimated numbers of bears. So most of the bears in Honshu are, of course, the largest numbers of them must be in eastern Japan and northern Japan. And so you can think about what the future is of Tsukinoa Uma. People are doing many things to help the bears, and one strategy, one thing that is being done is to cut down the Sugi Hinoki forest, which is shown here in this picture. This used to be all Sugi Hinoki forest. Here's an example. Cut those down and open up the forest and allow the sun to come in, and also to plant trees that are food for bears. So these markers are marking young trees that have been planted. That if you wait long enough, maybe 20, 30 years, if you can wait that long, will provide food for bears. But I don't know about that. It's a bit of a problem. So there's a little bit of background on bears in Japan, and let's go back to the original question. If you were asked what you think the future is for Japan's bears, how would you answer it? Dr. Joe Ansley,